to Rolling with Katie. I'm your host, Katie. We're back to my old setup today. I'm gonna try not to look at myself in the video thing, but I can't make any promises. It's definitely a crutch for real. If you're watching, we're mixing up the setup again. I don't have like a designated spot in my home quite yet for the pod, but hopefully we'll get there eventually. As of right now, I am mobile, and it honestly doesn't matter at all because most of you are probably listening, but shout out to my laptop. You guys get to see all my stickers. The light's kind of blowing them out. So whatever. Guys, we're here, we're queer, and we're talking about Euphoria. Again, lots to discuss. I don't have much to check in about. I have been just like super busy running around all over the place. This has been like the constant in my life so far this like spring, and it's been nice to start every week watching this show, even though it is insane. It's nice to have this to somewhat look forward to every week, and I more so look forward to just engaging with people about it online and having something to talk about and then make content about is fun and exciting for me. So yeah, thanks for being here, thanks for listening, and let's get into Stand Still and See. So I don't really get what that line is from. My bad. Season 3, episode 6. It's called Stand Still and See. Completely written. I double checked. Completely written by no other writer credits. Sam Levinson, and then directed by him as well. We get an Alamo backstory, and I've said before, these vignettes that we've gotten them about a lot of the primary characters of this, but then we also get them about random people like Fez's grandma at the beginning of season 2. I appreciated this one. I think these short film stories that we're seeing are really cool, really well executed. I think it's awesome to be introduced to and given an arc for characters that we've never seen before, and it's kind of a story within a story, developing and furthering information about a character we already know, but these 3 actors are completely new. It's talking about a different time in Alamo's life. It's his backstory. I obviously watched the after show interview shit that they do, and Sam Levinson spoke about how this has been an idea he's been sitting on and was trying to figure out a way to work it in. That's kind of where this came from. This is an idea that he has been stewing on, according to him. It's an interesting story. So we have Alamo as a young kid in the 70s and his mom who comes to him one day and says that she's going to be bringing a man around to see if he and Alamo get along because she thinks that this man can take care of them and provide for them. She warns him that he isn't the handsomest man, but he's a kind man and he'll provide for them or whatever. Also, the flashback begins with Rue's narration saying that the coldest woman Alamo ever knew was his mother. From the jump, I'm already seeing where that shit was gonna go. I saw a lot of people saying that they were worried that something bad was gonna happen to the man, the burn victim that Alamo's mother brings home to introduce to him. People were saying they thought something bad might happen with him or he might turn bad and like start hurting Alamo's mom. I didn't suspect any of that. I feel like and not saying that those people are like stupid or not valid for those theories. I had like a pit in my stomach that some shoe was gonna drop, obviously. That line at the beginning, that narration and setup for Alamo. My expectations were kind of set. It's like, oh, okay, so we're gonna see why this guy hates women. Like, we're gonna see why this guy is able to objectify and exploit and monetize human beings, women, like he's trafficking people. We're gonna get an explanation for that. The man that she brings around, he has chemical burns on his face and he's expecting his settlement to hit, and once it hits, then their life completely changes and they get to move to this really beautiful home and they're going on vacations and whatnot, and the man tells Alamo that he's going to ask his mom to marry him, and Alamo's super happy and excited because the guy is nice to him and their life is dope as shit because they're rich now. When they come back from vacation, everything is gone and Alamo's mom leaves and takes him, and the guy's like kind of giving Nate Jacobs on his knees like, like, I can fix this, I can fix this. And in that moment, I was like, this is giving red pill kind of vibes. This is giving the stereotype of women only dating men for financial purposes. As soon as a man doesn't have money, the woman could give less of a fuck about him, even if he's of pure heart and pure intent and he's the purest soul and he's a burn victim and he would never hurt anyone. But she's outie 5,000 and then seemingly like a former lover or Alamo's father, some people are saying, some man, it's kind of giving like she's returning to him. Alamo's mom is. He has all their shit and he's the one who robbed the poor innocent burn victim. So Alamo sees all that and he's like feeling bad for the man that his mom not only left but like orchestrated his downfall. And from then on, he swore to himself that he'd never let something offensive. I appreciated the art of what we saw play out on screen. The 3 actors that were brought in to do this Alamo backstory. I appreciate that we get a backstory on Alamo. He's such an eclectic character and a very dark individual. So I think it's cool that we get it because obviously his character evokes a lot of questions about what would lead somebody down this path and what would lead somebody to live this type of life. Again, going back to my point before, what would make a man view and treat women in the way that he does, surprisingly, and to the shock and awe of no one. It's not that much. It doesn't take that much, and surprise, surprise, he has mommy issues. I thought it was weird because in the after section of it, when they're doing the interviews, the actor that plays Alamo was saying, oh, he reveres his mother. And I guess maybe a little bit. I don't think it's so much so that he reveres her. It's almost like he wants to maintain a reminder of her and her essence with the silver slipper and designing it and doing it as like an homage to her and then keeping the snake that makes him think of her. I'll get into the snake. The actor's like, oh, he reveres his mother. In that moment, when little Alamo is like looking around and sees all the other guys' shit and is putting the pieces together as a little kid, a forming brain, a forming mind, he's putting together what his mom did. The look on the child actor's face is of hate. He's like disgusted with his mom. And then he's like in his room. Clearly Alamo's love and admiration for Western culture and like cowboy culture and shit like that started when he was a young age. He's like gripping a toy gun and like he's all like mad and angry. He doesn't revere his mom. It's like, no, this is like ground zero for when this man starts hating women. There are 2 stereotypes that are really heavy with this backstory, and it's that women are responsible when men turn out to be shitty, and the other stereotype is that women date men and manipulate men and seduce men for money. It's completely devoid of nuance. Sometimes Sam Levinson's commentary on women and money. He loves to showcase these morally compromised women chasing after that bag, and he never really goes beyond the surface level of what that looks like. He's not interrogating why that is. This whole Alamo backstory is giving like, I got cheated on one time, so all women are bad and horrible. I'm gonna exploit them and fuck them over before they fuck me over. It's also weird that he's just this white guy who wants to tell this story that undeniably like socioeconomic status, race, and gender affect that. But for him to not really make any commentary about that and just paint this woman as a villain and then Alamo's villain origin story essentially is kind of bogus. Some people I've heard are saying it feels like red pill content. Black actors and black artists and storytellers being used to promote a red pill as narrative. And I don't think those people are wrong. Like, when women don't like men or when they use men in the way that Alamo's mom did, it's within a society that men created and continue to maintain. Alamo's mom in the 70s, as a black woman, wouldn't have had the ability to get a job that would be able to sustain her and her son. She doesn't have the luxury to fall in love with somebody organically and make shit work that way. It would have been survival for her at at that point. Obviously, there's like character traits and shit. I think this woman is kind of a hustler at the end of the day. At least that's, again, the character that he's making. Women hate men because of what men have done to them. Men hate women because of what they won't do for them. And I feel like sometimes people don't see it that way. My overall question is just, why are we telling this story? It is in service to this character Alamo and giving us a sense of where he comes from in his backstory. I don't necessarily feel like the conclusion that the show is making as a whole is that this system that Alamo hates so much of women being able to outsmart men, and it shapes his worldview into a bitch can never outsmart him or whatever. All of that is the overall view and voice of the show saying, actually, that system was built and maintained by men. I feel like it's just a lot of yelling, screaming, shouting. Women are after money. It's hard to tell if a woman actually likes you because you never know if she's just doing it for money or if she actually likes you for your heart and your personality and your balding head, bro. Like, no one never knows. We're not getting a whole lot of the other side of it, of like why that is. Why is there such a rise in OnlyFans? Why are there sugar babies? Why do sugar babies exist? Why do strip clubs and places like the Silver Slipper exist? They do exist and they're awful. Look at it. Don't look away. It's super shocking. It's super in your face. And I'm getting a little bit sick of it. Overall, I feel like the writing in this episode was my favorite of the season thus far. I felt like this episode flowed well. There were a lot of other writing specific things that I'll touch on that I felt were really strong and positive. So let's continue. Let's get into it. The only other thing I'll say about the whole Alamo backstory thing is now I want a Lori backstory. Do we think we're gonna get a Lori backstory? We had that tiny tidbit mention at the beginning of the season about how she used to be a junkie. What the fuck is going on with these white supremacist ass hillbilly people? What is their story? I think it would be interesting to hear about that. I think if we're gonna get the man's side of the feud, we should get the woman's side of the feud. Not to always go back to that, but we've been with Lori since season 2, so I want to know what's up with her. So episode 5 left us on a cliffhanger regarding Rue. Obviously, Alamo missed. I don't know if he missed her on purpose with his polo stick or if that was once again God intervening. Do we think he did it on purpose or did he whiff it to try to get more information out of her? So Rue divulges information and is begging for her life. He's like threatening to hit her with this polo thing. Super spooky. And she was in that hole. They had Zendaya in that hole. And the BTS content from last week, it was saying how she spent like 3 days in that hole. And I was like, damn, only for that sequence at the end of episode 5. But no, she was in that for longer because she did that whole phone call with Faye. So she was in that. $1 million an episode to be in a hole. I think it's interesting that we got Alamo's backstory in this episode in particular because he's really reaching the height of his paranoia, but also like he is chipped away at a little bit. A piece of him has been chipped away at in a sense. I think this robbery is really affecting him. We've seen that he has a very fragile sense of masculinity and power, and I think this has really emasculated him and he feels like a bitch got one over on him, which he swore he would never let happen. So he's guns a-blazing. He's not fucking around. He wants his money back and Rue knows that. So that's what she says she can get him to while she's like begging for her life. And then we get this phone call with Faye. So lots to unpack here. Faye is sampling the drugs they stole from Alamo and it's making her have the shits. It's not getting her high at all. It's not actually coke. In the meantime, Faye has genuinely fallen in love with Wayne. Lord. It's disgusting the way we have to watch them eat the chicken. Again, just giving car crash that you can't look away from. Faye is somebody who never really had a chance, it seems like. We should probably also get a Faye backstory, question mark. That would be great. They probably wouldn't do that after this episode, though. They went really, really in on Faye and what she's been up to in this episode, which I love. But do I love what's happening with Faye? Absolutely fucking not. Someone save her. She doesn't know any better, but she should. should. But she never had a chance. Back to what I was saying. Like, it's giving she was doing drugs before her frontal lobe was fully developed. That could potentially be a problematic thing to say, and I don't want to make excuses for her either. Like, this shit is so bad. She's dating a Nazi and she let them tattoo a swastika on her lower back, which is just insane. And again, Sam Levinson, a white man, is the sole and only writer on this shit. I think he should have his laptop revoked, like his driver's license. I think he should lose internet access for multiple years. It's all for shock value. I'll get into the feud more. I think there is something to be said for the kind of extremes of both sides, Lori versus Alamo, that are in this feud. I don't love that people are saying the N-word and the F slur and just all these things. I think you can say what he's trying to say without doing these shocking things like that, like tattooing a swastika on somebody. This is a complete deviation, but I bring it up just because Rue kind of pulls the Fez card on Faye to get her to send her a picture of the key that she needs to get the Alamo's money back. She pulls that card with her that like he helped her and she hasn't done anything to help him because he's in jail. And someone had commented on one of the reels I posted just asking how I felt about them keeping Fez a part of this season. His character is still alive, he's just in jail, and they're having him kind of live on in the show by calling, having characters talk to him on the phone or mention him or discuss him. The person who commented that, I said it's hard to navigate. I don't know exactly how to feel about it. In one way, I think it's nice, but in another way, it feels a little weird. And the person agreed with me and said that it feels exploitative, which I think is a perfect way to describe kind of the yucky feeling I have with that. And it's just funny that then Rue uses Fez being in jail as kind of a guilt trip for Faye to get her to do what she wants. But also, like, no one has talked about Ashtray. And we're having this kind of sweet, vulnerable moment where Faye is remembering her time with Fez and feeling kind of guilty about what all went down. And she says that he was her friend to Wayne. And no one's talking about Ashtray, like a child who was gunned down. I think it's insane that we haven't even mentioned him, especially with how big of a moment that was at the end of season 2. His death, was crazy. Yeah, so Wayne is an insane sicko freak and doesn't listen to her when she tries to say that the drugs they stole from Alamo aren't coke. So what's going on there? If we're supposed to know that something's going on there, I did not clock that. Are those drugs not real drugs? And why are they making her shit so much? Is that like enema stuff or like laxatives to make the strippers lose weight? I don't know. Hopefully we'll get more information on that in the last 2 episodes of the season and hopefully the show forever. Yeah, as I said, I hate Wayne's language. I'm just being like, I'm trying to put a baby in you, some fair skinned babies. And then when he catches her doing the coke that's actually not coke, he says, I don't want you giving birth to no creepy crawly. Faye, get out. Someone get her out of there. Portraying white supremacists in this way. The actress who plays Lori on TikTok, she said it best. There are no smart, reasonable, educated people who think that the white race is superior. This is what these people are. They're junkies and they're stupid. I think there is something to be said for portraying them in this extremely unflattering, but I think on point way. That's one side of it, but I think the swastikas, the N-word, the F-slur, these are things that harm communities. And when you're a straight white guy, I'm not sure you really get to do that unchecked. If you're profiting off of the shock value of those things, kind of feels icky in my opinion. And writing that shit into your scripts, why do you feel the need to say that so much? It's the N-word. It's like all this shit on top of men just being completely abhorrent to women or porn, pretty much. This episode though, I will say was the strongest of the season in my opinion so far. And I do have hope for the last 2 episodes. Still, it's not devoid of really questionable qualities and aspects that I think should be questioned and should be discussed and talked about, because the show has so many eyes on it. And to just be like, well, accept it. No, we don't have to. It's not just good because it's Euphoria and A24 and HBO. Just because you put it in slow motion and had orchestral music playing over it, like, no, she's still smushing her up against a skyscraper. It doesn't matter how you package it, it's still shit that you're delivering. So Alamo agrees to meet Lori at his house, and the white supremacists are mobile and they go to his dope ass home in the desert, and they're super confident, strutting in there like they have the upper hand, and immediately, no, you didn't. You never had the upper hand. Immediately, the Caucasians to the back. Immediately. They're outgunned, outmanned, outsmarted because they're dumb. So clock it. Love to see it. Also cannot forget that the DEA is listening in to this meeting. This has been the meeting that Rue has been attempting to orchestrate ever since she started working with the DEA. The fact that she has not only been able to survive Alamo's antics and his superstitions, but also orchestrate this meeting that she needs to get in good with the DEA and get Faye to send her that key so she gets cleared with Alamo is crazy. Somebody is looking out for this girl because she's out here consistently is getting out of hairy situations. That has been a thing, and this is a complete escalation this season. We have this other short story, short film sort of vignette of Faye and Wayne's love story. It's not romantic or likable in any way, but it's shot in a way and the music evokes qualities of like a rom-com or a real, not that it's not a real love story, but like a romance between the two of them. And I thought that it was being built up so that Wayne was gonna get popped, who's gonna get killed. I thought that would have been really good since Alamo has been feeling this intense chip on his shoulder from getting his shit stolen from him. It would have been cool if Wayne got blasted and that would have messed some shit up, and then Lori would have felt like she got something taken away from her, because this all started with Alamo feeling like he had something taken from him with Lori and he kept Rue, so then Lori was feeling like something was taken from her, and then it's just been this back and forth feud. She sent the pig, he killed her bird. It's just, and now we're here. Why were we having this slow motion makeout session, the heart hands in the air, if we're not gonna kill that man? A few minor tweaks plus the labyrinth music. I love that he is still just releasing this shit and people are putting that into the scene so we can hear what it might have sounded like. Would have made all the difference. Yeah, I was thinking Wayne was gonna die. I was really feeling like they were building that up, but that didn't happen. Not saying it still can't. I think it would be somewhat satisfying to see him get got, especially by a black person who outsmarted him. This feud really is between a gang of white supremacists and then a gang of black men. And that's kind of what I was saying before, that it's two very oppositional groups of people. White supremacists are directly in opposition against black people and people of color. So it really takes the stakes of this feud and elevates it. I wouldn't go so far to say that it is making commentary on anything. It might be trying to make commentary about the place that we are in as a country where everything feels so oppositional. I don't know if it's going that deep, but it definitely raises the stakes of this feud, which I think is the ultimate intention, because I think a lot of the intention behind plot and story choices in this are superficial and just for shock value and just for pure entertainment value. I don't know if Sam Levinson is really truly thinking about what that means, that there are these two groups of people, one made up of white supremacists and one made up of black men in the same business feuding. What does that really mean for our country? Like, I don't know if people are thinking about that deeply. Another thing I liked was how Lori and her gang start questioning Alamo about one of his businesses, the medical facility. I'm like, oh my God, we're actually addressing something that was previously established. Like, oh my gosh, we're actually returning to something that we talked about before. The lingering question about what happened to Angel, and we think we probably know, but like, what actually happened to her, what's going on there with that hospital that Rue brought her to. Alamo explains mentions that he uses that business as plastic surgery, dental work, mostly like cosmetic procedures for his dancers. So they're questioning him about this business and kind of alluding to the fact that Lori knows, and we obviously know that something sketchy is going on at that facility. So I really hope that gets brought back up again and we get some confirmation on what's been going on there. And I hope that Alamo is held accountable for the fuckery and the atrocities that he's committed, because gross. Then he's like immediately trying to get out of that conversation and changes the subject. Lori brings up the fact that they're closing the border and they have a ton of drugs that they need to get rid of, and they need a new mule. And so they're saying that if Alamo moves a crap ton of drugs across the border before it closes, then he'll get his stuff back. It doesn't seem like a great deal, but I guess Alamo doesn't really have a leg to stand on. I guess I don't really know why he agreed to do this. If I were Lori, I wouldn't trust that Alamo was actually going to make that shit happen for her in order to get his stuff back. But this is where we are. That is what is going on. Rue is in a good spot with the DEA. I'm worried that something bad is going to happen. But as of right now, like, they kind of reassure her that they'll look favorably on her case if everything goes to plan. And we get this moment where Rue says, "Thank God." And we revisit this episode, kind of her journey, her faith journey. Yeah, we'll get more into that in a second. Once again, we get Rue trying to warn Maddie about Alamo. Again, we get Maddie being a stand-up bitch and saying, if he's such a monster, why are you working for him? Constantly looking out for Rue. I'm obsessed with the TikToks, compilations of Maddie and all the times that she has stuck up for Rue or been subtly looking out for her, making sure she's not relapsing and stuff like that. That's the shit I live for. It's so minuscule. It's like a teaspoon, half a teaspoon of what's actually going on in this show, but I live for it, okay? I don't need much to sustain me. But I'm concerned for her too. I'm worried that something bad is going to happen to our girl Maddie. She's asking Alamo if the girls, Kitty and Magic, she's asking if they can get some time off so that she can take them to parties and not have them be so overworked so they can produce better, more content. He's like, that's my money. Like, you're trying to take my bitches? He's just so objectifying. And even though Maddie is in this position where she's exploiting women and their sexualities, she still views them as human beings, as people, whereas Alamo definitely doesn't. And that's where I'm like, I want Maddie to recognize that is the type of person that she's dealing with, and she is also a woman. To him, is just a vehicle for him to make money, like nothing more. And I want her to protect herself. Didn't have a ton of Maddie this episode. Also didn't have a ton of Jules. Let's get into Jules. The musical motif, that building and quieting strings soundtrack that was playing when we saw Jules painting in Ellis's apartment. That song, that track in the background fucking triggers me because that's the same track that was playing when Ellis was saran wrapping her ass. Rue's in the chair thinking that maybe all of the decisions that she made in her life were actually the right ones and they just led her to this point, and she's watching Jules paint and is feeling like she's in a good spot. This is kind of the beginning of this journey that Rue has been on this entire season, but really comes to a culmination in this episode where she just wants things to be good. She just is like, maybe things could be actually good. I think she has hope for the first time in a long time that she could live a sober, normal life eventually. And she sees that on the horizon for her. And so she's kind of looking at Jules like, and this is where I come to pause, because it's a very masculine way of thinking. It's a very man's way of thinking that, like, oh, I'm doing good, and entitlement that Rue has almost to like, and Jules is gonna be right by my side when I do it. Her automatic assumption that Jules is just gonna go along with her vision, and it's just so unfair. And Rue is obviously a flawed character, but immediately just the way she was kind of like watching Jules paint, and it was probably that triggering ass soundtrack playing in the background too, but I just didn't like the way she was leering at her. And once again, I already don't love the way that Zendaya was performing that in that moment, and I have to say any scenes with these two, I'm wary and I'm skeptical and I'm bracing for another letdown, but I'm also always stupidly hopeful that we're gonna get some cute Walla Walla content. But obviously, no. Like, we have this weird kids conversation that I wasn't expecting. Also, Hunter Shaver looks so good in this scene. I will just say, like, at least we got that. And Rue saying she wants kids, and then her line, I just want good old fashioned American problems, alluding to I want kids, and then the kids will be my focus, instead of my shit and my problems. And low key, I do feel like that is kind of the reason why a lot of people have kids. And I feel like Rue has this tendency to say the quiet part out loud a lot and doesn't have the social cues or awareness to clock that or to realize that she's doing that. But I feel like this is one of those instances where she's like, I don't want to think about my shit anymore. I just want to have something else to focus on. I don't want to build myself anymore and work on myself anymore. I want to spend my time and energy working on somebody else, somebody different. Yeah, so it was an interesting conversation. I just wasn't expecting it. And then Jules is immediately like, how long have you been sober this time? Like, I get her frustration because it's like, you come crashing back into my life after all this time, and what, now I'm just supposed to be on your timeline now that you're sober and you got your shit relatively figured out. Like, mind you, Jules doesn't know this, but Rue is still probably gonna spend a little bit of time in jail and is straddling these two drug lords. She does have some audacity in this moment here. I get the frustration that Jules is feeling. So yeah, Rue is just, she's clowning. And then Rue is saying that she has to live for something bigger than herself. And Jules is like, you think we're gonna be that? And Rue's like, yeah, why not? It's just so blasé about it. And we finally get Rue saying what she wants. She's like, I want to be with you. And they're referring to the last time they were together. So alluding to some shit went down that we just don't get to see at all. But I think we know that they banged. And Jules is like crashing out. She's like, that almost cost me my relationship. And I am immediately triggered, like, in the moment. Again, I know and I get where her frustration is coming from with Rue and all this shit. My frustration more comes from the character in general. Like, why does Jules's character feel like a vehicle for Ellis's character at this point? Like, what? She, like, actually cares about this relationship with this man? I thought she wanted to be chosen, and this was Rue choosing her. And again, I get why she's annoyed with Rue, but this man made very clear in the last episode that he doesn't give a shit about her. But I guess she did say, I could lose my relationship and I could lose this apartment. It's not all about this old man that she's in a relationship with. There's that other component of he's providing her with her life. She's able to paint and pursue her passion and live super comfortably. But I'm just angry about the queer baiting of it all, realizing that this character that I love so much is down bad for this old man and wants him to choose her. Even though he has a family, she wants the life that being with him gives her, which is so shitty because that's like always gonna be the default. And women will have historically like always chosen being with a man over being with a woman for that reason. So it just sucks seeing that play out on screen, and I'm just like, okay, just kill it. Like, just let it die. Like, I just want the show to be over. That was how I was feeling in this moment. This was my least favorite part of the episode. I'll be taking no further questions at this time. Rue kind of clocks Jules' tea, and it clearly hits a nerve because she's like, oh, you're just staying here to paint until he comes back. You. Boom! Slaps a bitch. Bitch went down. And she kind of deserved that, because who the hell do you think you are coming into my penthouse and talking to me like that? So I do think she low-key kind of deserved that slap. It was an epic smackdown because the painting fell on top of her. And I'm just over here feeling like these two are never gonna figure it out. So just let it die. I think Rules is over, because any type of like wrap up is annoying to me. I could eat these words, and I hope I do, but don't hold your breath. Moving on to some of the other characters. Cassie has her acting debut in this episode. Immediately hate the director and producer or whatever talking about Cassie's body. I don't think that that is completely unheard of in Hollywood, but again, it just felt like written by a man vibes, written by a man indicator. It's like, maybe that's how you and your bros that you're making this shit with talk about women, but why are we making women say that about other women? Hate it. They're like, she's very womanly. Boo. Tomato, tomato, whatever. I don't care. Like, if people are like, oh, she's so sensitive about shit, like, I could be going in way harder. Okay, you have no idea what I am not saying that I could be saying. Okay, don't push me, because I could get there if I wanted to, but you don't deserve my words. Once again, I appreciate what is being delivered to us with this Cassie stuff and her having this triggered moment on set. I like what it's doing for the character. I like that we get this vulnerability from her and we get to see how she genuinely feels about the shit that has happened in her life. The vehicle that's used to get us there is what I'm just like, huh? She just happens to get triggered by the dialogue that the other actor is using, and it sends her into this super vulnerable state where she's talking about how she feels about her wedding night with Nate and that horrible situation happening, and then her thinking that maybe she deserves it because she did steal him from her best friend. I like that we get to see this from Cassie in this moment. It's weird to me the way in which we got there. It ends up working, and now it's looking like Cassie's acting career is gonna start to take off. I was getting weird vibes from Lexi initially when she was behind the camera watching everything unfold. She seemed like worried on Cassie's behalf, and then she ended up seeming happy that things worked out. But then I'm like, no, she's actually not happy for her, because she's trying to drag her in this conversation with the writer director of the show, like being like, oh yeah, she does OnlyFans. Lexi is just really not my favorite this season, which is a bummer because I loved her character in season 1 and 2, and she's been such a hater, and I get why, but she's just not my favorite to watch this season, and it's unfortunate. I think it might be interesting if Cassie starts a love affair with that famous actor. You know, we really only have 120 minutes left to wrap this shit up, so what they choose to do and what not to do will be interesting. Everyone's character feels like very far from a satisfying conclusion at this moment in time. Rue seems to be the only character that is inching towards a conclusion. I'm getting the sense that it's either going to be a happy ending or a sad ending. And I think that's what people are kind of waiting for, and that's what's being set up. All of these other characters doesn't seem like we're approaching any semblance of a conclusion, which I don't think is either a good or a bad thing. I do hope this show is over after these last 2 episodes. I hope to God it's fucking over. But I don't necessarily think that everything needs to be tied up in a nice, neat bow for everybody. A show that I always go back to with how it ends is Orange is the New Black. A lot of those storylines, since there were so many of them, were left open-ended. Obviously, it can't end happy for everybody. Everybody can't get out of jail at the same time. That's not this show, and that's not realistic. Some shows are tied up super sweetly and everybody gets a somewhat happy ending, but I don't think that's necessarily this show, and I don't think that needs to happen with Euphoria. But Michaela and I also used to say all the time, if season 1 would have been it, like it was just a standalone season 1 and done, and then everybody got way too busy and everybody's careers exploded and just that was it was never a thing again, I think that would have been great. And yeah, there would have been a lot of unanswered questions and a lot lot of open-ended things, like so many. We don't even know if Rue lives or dies after the finale of the first season, but I think it is complete nonetheless. And to be honest, I think that would have been better than what we have at this point. Just food for thought. Sorry for that tangent. Cassie's having this conversation with the director that Lexi is listening in on, and Lexi's like shaming her in front of these people who have taken an interest in her and talking about jerk off instructions, JOIs, and like the nature of what she's actually doing. She's not allowing Cassie to pass it off as like, oh, I'm a content creator, or dancing around what it actually is. She wants to make sure that the director knows exactly what Cassie does. It's not, as a sister, as a woman, I just don't appreciate it. Like, I can't imagine a circumstance where I would be dragging my sister in that way. It's been established that Lexi feels some type of way about OnlyFans, and I get that this is a perspective that exists and surrounds the OnlyFans work and the sex work industry, so it is being displayed through Lexi's character. I just hate to see it. The dramatic buildup of Cassie deleting her OnlyFans, and before that, she's screaming in the street, "Thank God," just like Rue did in the early parts of this episode. She's on the Warner Brothers lot. It's just hilarious. And then we have this dramatic buildup to her deleting her OnlyFans, and she can't do it. Going back to the jerk off instructions and all of these terms that we're being introduced to this season, I just, again, am questioning why Sam Levinson knows about all of this stuff. And maybe he doesn't, but it's just like, these are the stories he's telling, and I think he wants to tell them. And I think we need to listen to him and believe him. Okay. And then the director is like, so you're a sex worker. Cassie's immediate denial of that after Lexi has been kind of trying to pin that on her, and all this shame surrounding sex work. It's interesting making commentary on it. Again, it's the horse's mouth that it's coming from. The fact that it's Sam Levinson writing it to be lines that Sydney Sweeney says when she's like, no, like, I'm not a Democrat, I'm not an R word, I'm not it's just giving like, I'm not a feminist, my jeans are blue. You know, that's what it's giving. And I won't elaborate further on that. The director tells Cassie that she has to delete her OnlyFans, and she is confronting this crossroads of like, okay, do we delete the OnlyFans and everything that she's built on there and all the money that she has made on there and the income? And she, in a way, is kind of turning her back on Nate a little bit and pursuing her career and her acting career as just Cassie, or Cassie Howard, and really prioritizing that over getting Nate out of his situation. And that is like a big decision for her, and it's this big buildup. And obviously she wants to talk to Nate about it. Thank God she doesn't get through to him, because he would definitely try to talk her out of it. He would definitely want her to keep doing OnlyFans so that he can keep getting $30,000 deposited into his account every Friday. And then she deletes her OnlyFans, and turns out it's not that big of a deal, and it's just this anticlimactic buildup. This kind of Cassie and Lexi sequence on LA Nights ends with Lexi, flip-flopping ass bitch, getting the opportunity to write Cassie's storyline for LA Nights. This storyline of a girl who does OnlyFans. And it'll be interesting to see the perspective that Lexi chooses to go about writing that. It'll be interesting to see the perspective that her writing takes on all of that, given what we know about Lexi's view of that whole situation. But then she's also kind of like this fake woke LA girly and wants to be of the times and relevant, but also politically correct. So it'll be interesting to see what she does with that. But yeah, of course, she's like now all happy that she has this opportunity, and she's like, oh, I knew you guys would fall in love with her. It's like, you have been preying on her downfall this whole time. Don't even pretend like you're not. Yeah, at this point, I'm not a fan, but it's fine. Going back to Rue and her situation, the crew is 3D printing the key, and it's gonna take a little bit. So Rue goes to church, and she's reading the 10 Commandments, and then her mom is calling, and she answers very casually, yeah, what's up? I forgot that she had put the DEA guys in there as mom so that she could take their calls when she was with Alamo. It turns out it's actually her mom. Again, building on stuff that was previously established. I love that setup for then Rue reconnecting with Leslie. I thought that was very smart. And we have this really powerful acting moment from Zendaya that in this episode when she's on the phone with her mom and we're only hearing Rue's side of the conversation. And then for it to end with Leslie saying goodbye or hanging up the phone or whatever, it's just that moment at the end we see her. It's so powerful. I thought that scene was executed really, really beautifully. And I'm so glad to see Leslie again. And it's all feeding into what I was talking about before. We're seeing a semblance of a conclusion for this character of Rue. And I have a really yucky feeling in my stomach that it could go one way or another. She says to her mom that she's at church. We get the sense that her mom is surprised that she's there. I like that we get to delve into this theme and coming back to this question about Rue's faith journey. It's been kind of presented at varying levels throughout this season, but we really get Rue's perspective on her faith and why she is thinking more about God and what she believes in at this current point in her life, in this vulnerable moment in this conversation with her mom. She says she believes in God because if he exists, so does redemption and salvation, and she needs that. She doesn't want to live with the mistakes that she's made. And I think that's a really interesting perspective on Christianity. I think a lot of people, and maybe not just limited to Christianity, but belief in God in general, her saying, I just want to start over and not wanting to live with her mistakes and then wanting to have kids to be able to live outside of herself. She just wants to move forward. She has this intense desire to move on from the mistakes that she made and the person that she was in high school and get out from under people like Alamo and Lori and be cleared with the DEA. There seems to be a path forming for something like that to actually be able to happen. And Rue is continuing to put her faith in God. And, I think she's really wanting for this path to work out for her, and I think she can see and she's hopeful that it actually might work out. Like I said, for kind of the first time in a long time, she's hopeful. On the other hand, a lot of things can go wrong. Rue also just isn't the best decision maker and sometimes seems to operate with a very heavy disregard for her own safety. It seems like she just has a death wish sometimes. But I want her to come out of it. I think everybody does. We want to see her win. Believing in God so that you don't have to confront or live forever with the mistakes that you've made and the wrong that you've done is just a very interesting commentary on religion and faith in general. I was left with a fear that something bad is going to happen to Rue, and that will be extremely disappointing if that ends up happening, if Sam Levinson ends up killing this character off. And he seems to be playing in our faces with it a little bit, because right after this very vulnerable emotional moment where Rue is talking about the future and we don't know whether or not she's going to have that, we cut to Lexi having this conversation with somebody by her pool and the friend saying, you should just kill her, talking about Cassie's storyline that she's going to be writing for LA Nights. And then Lexi being like, I'm supposed to build her up, I can't kill her. And then the friend's like, so build her up to kill her. If people don't die periodically, people get bored. And I'm like, okay, so are we talking about LA Nights or are we talking about Ruby Bennett, my bitch? Are you talking about my girl or are you talking about Cassie's character? It's cool the way he's kind of poking at us like that, but if it ends with Rue not having a happy ending, I will be very, very, very displeased. And I don't care if it's not realistic. I don't care if it's like, oh, well, it never really ends well for people like this. Fuck that. Fuck that. Like, no. I think if somebody wants to get better, and Rue has always wanted to get better to some extent, and like she does have these relationships and connections and friendships that she does care about, and she is a good person. And I think if somebody wants redemption the way that Rue does and is striving for, then they should get it. That's how I feel about that. We get the package delivered. Just as we think that Cassie might be getting out from under this man, they gotta rope her back in. I think that they know that she's the breadwinner at this point, and this man is just a fucking loser. He's going out into the desert, stomping on flowers and calling them F slurs. I truly have no words for that, but I think they're gonna use Nate as bait on the phone with Cassie to try to get them to wire, or to try to get her to wire them more money to spare him more limbs. I don't know why he's still in town. Why are you stomping on the flowers at the site that they know you're probably going to be at? Like, what are you doing? Get out of town. But now I think it'll be interesting to see which way Cassie ends up choosing. Now that she deleted her OnlyFans account, there isn't a way for her to amass a lot of money super quickly. What does that mean for our man, Nate? Will he be losing an entire foot? Who knows? I could not believe that behavior with the flowers. I could not believe that. And if that is the only thing we get about his sexuality, because that is commentating on his sexuality given the history that we know about this character, and then him choosing to use that word in particular when he's like taking out frustration, and we've seen him do that before too, when he's been like in a fit of anger, or when he was beating up Tyler or whatever that guy's name was in season 1. He loves to say that word, and I think Sam Levinson does too. Ugh, it's gross. But it's like, if that is all we get, fuck that. Why did he have dicks on his phone? It's still not being addressed, and I won't take that shit lying down. I won't. Yes, so very excited to see how that plays out with Cassie and Nate. Not excited, more just like intrigued. Lastly, we have the snake's backstory as well, and it used to belong to a dancer. The snake is, of course, a metaphor for never knowing what a motherfucker's true intentions are. So going back to Alamo's mother and him not knowing what she really had up her sleeve, this whole metaphor with the snake is that it wasn't eating, and the dancer would try to feed it live mice or whatever the fuck, and it wasn't eating, and then she took it to the vet, and the vet said that it was a perfectly healthy python. It was just preparing itself to eat her. Alamo paid $10,000 to keep that metaphor with him so that he remembers that people are always out to get him. And it does really explain this unwell man's behavior. He is super paranoid, keeps saying that everybody's trying to fuck him, and he just doesn't want to get got. I think it's being set up to hopefully have a satisfying conclusion that he does get what's coming to him, whether it be retribution for what he did to Angel or what he did to Kitty. I want to see this man get brought down. I want to see Lori get brought down too, and I want to see Rue be okay, and I want to see Maddie be okay. I do think it would be really funny for Bishop to be working with the DEA as well or something. I do keep going back to that fan theory and feel like that would be hilarious, that's what ultimately brings Alamo down, as somebody that he trusted completely. I can't put a finger down on him because he also threatens Rue by being like, your mom, Leslie. Don't hurt Leslie and don't hurt her sister. Rue is tasked with going to meet Lori to get these drugs that they're going to have to move over the border. And we have another moment where this bitch is going to kill herself. She's ran off the side of the road because she's trying to change her Bible CD. Then we have this burning bush biblical moment with the burning Joshua tree at the end of the episode and cutting to black. In the afters, Sam Levinson said, what if God sends you a sign but you misinterpret it? Which I don't love, because I, with the whole burning Joshua tree moment, took that as like a sign that like Rue is on the right path, and maybe she got ran off the road because she's not meant to go to Lori's to get the drugs or something like that. In the promo for the next episode, Rue is like saying that she thinks God revealed himself to her. But then Sam Levinson is being like, what if God sends you a sign but you misinterpret it? So I'm just worried that he's gonna do some fuck shit and kill Rue. And if that happens, we rise at dawn, because that will not stand. That will not go over well with me. And that is really all I have to say. We are so close to the end of this, 2 episodes left. There are cool themes and qualities and performances and sometimes even writing moments of this show, but overall I just feel this dark cloud and energy over it, whether that be misogyny, racism, sexism, homophobia, red pill, toxic masculinity vibes. It's just the combination of all those things is just this dark presence while I'm watching this show, and I have to say I am excited for it to be done and to move on to other subjects on this show. But until then, we got 2 left, and then Euphoria will be a chapter in history. Follow me on all of my social medias, especially TikTok, your girl KT Lilas, because I repost a lot of Euphoria takes and clips and shit on there. So if you're vibing with this content, see more of my thoughts on the show, the best place to follow me is TikTok, but I'm also on Instagram, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on Spotify, rate 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, all that shit. I'm also a filmmaker, so if you want to watch the films that I've written and directed, the link to my YouTube channel and my website are below as well. So that's it for this week. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next week. Lalas!